Hal, I'm grateful to you for the faith you're showing in me today. No athlete ever ends his career or her career the way you want to. We all want to keep playing forever. But it doesn't work that way. Accepting the end gracefully is part of being a professional athlete. Saying goodbye may be the hardest part of the job. But that's what I'm doing today. I want to thank Mom, who's watching at home, and my daughters. Thank you for your support. You've been through so much with me. I want to thank my family, my friends, former managers, coaches, teammates, my teammates who are in the back today. I want to thank Commissioner Manfred for your support. And I especially want to thank the fans for letting me play the game that I love. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Obviously, we'll take some questions. We have wireless mics. Please raise your hands, and we'll get to as many of you as possible. Meredith. To your right, Alex.
Alex, at what point in time did you know that this was going to be the end, and did you reach out to Hal, or did he reach out to you?
Hal reached out to me, and we had several conversations. I believe it was Wednesday.
Wally?
Alex, do you think that you can no longer play baseball? Because you and I have discussed the fact that you thought you still had some home runs left in you. Why are you choosing to walk away now?
I mean, the answer is that, sure, of course, I think I can play baseball. You always think you have one more hit in your help the team win one more game for sure. That wasn't in the cards. That was the Yankees' decision, and I'm at peace with it.
To your left, Alex. Brendan?
Alex, when Hal approached you, what did he approach you about? How did he approach you? Did he ask you to retire?
I'm not going to share those private conversations. I'm going to keep those private. But I can tell you that I was incredibly humbled and flattered that he wanted me to spend time with the next generation of Yankees. That's a role that I've enjoyed my entire career, especially after arriving here in 2004. So I'm looking forward to that. The goal in New York never ends, never changes. It's to bring a world championship to our great fans every year. And this is another way that I can be involved and bring value to our franchise.
Susan, to your right, Alex.
Alex, you've always said you're a teacher at heart. Was this your idea, or was it Hal's, to work with these kids? Because there's a plethora of shortstops down there.
Yeah, no, this was Hal's idea. And I give him a lot of credit for believing in me and having the faith in me. But I think he recognized early on that I really enjoy working with some of our great players that have come through our system. And we keep drafting great players, developing them, and some are here and some are elsewhere. But we do have an incredible amount of talent in the minor leagues. We have some guys that we've seen here this year that have an incredible future. And the Yankees are excited, and I'm excited. And the other thing is, when you go down in rehab assignments, you get to meet these kids, I'm invested in these kids. And spring training, Rob Thompson does a great job of combining veterans and young players. And we do a lot of things together. And just like they're excited, I'm equally as excited.
Dave against the wall, and then Dave Lennon next to him.
Alex, there was a time a few years ago when relations between you and the Yankees were not good. How did you change that dynamic to the point where now you're going to be a special advisor to the owner?
I have no idea. I wish I knew. You know, everyone always wants to talk about baseball and numbers. Baseball is synonymous with numbers. But one of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that I've been able to mend some really good relationships at every level in baseball, and starting with the fans, with the commissioner's office, with our front office. And the fact that I even have an opportunity to stay involved with the Yankees is something that I'll be sharing with my girls for a long time.
Leno, right next to Dave.
Alex, over here next to Dave. Why Friday to stop playing? And two, how hard is it? You're so close to so many immortal people between Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron and further up the line. How hard is that to walk away knowing you're that close to that crew?
Yeah, so I think Friday was just logistics. My mom is at home. I definitely I asked Hal for an opportunity to play one more game in front of our fans, my mother, my daughters, the folks at the Boys and Girls Club. There'll be a lot of people that are flying from all over the country to get here. Just Friday worked out. Thankful for that opportunity to play and get at least a few more at-bats. As far as 700 or any of those type of milestones, look, I would have had an unbelievable fun time trying to go after them. I think it would have been something fun to share with our fans, with our young players. Watching history is something that I think is synonymous with the Yankees, and I would have had fun trying to not only hit home runs, but help the team win and contribute and finish the year on a strong note. Those are not the cards that I was dealt, and again, I'm at peace with the organization's decision.
Joel, back to your right, same spot, Alex.
Alex, in answering Wally's question before, you said you always think you have one more hit in you, one more homer, a chance to help it. But then you finished by saying that was the Yankees' decision. Did the Yankees essentially give you an ultimatum here that said, let's work out something where both of us have some grace walking out of this, or else we're just going to release you?
I mean, I don't think the conversations got that strong or aggressive. They didn't need to. I have an enormous respect for Hal Steinbrenner, and I really focused on the positive part of the conversation, the opportunity to have some longevity with our franchise, and that was it.
Right here, the lady here.
Alex, Cristina from Telemundo. ¿Nos puedes dar unas palabras en español? ¿Por qué decides primero de nada terminar tu contrato un año antes de todo?
Bueno, primero le quiero dar las gracias a todos los fanáticos latinos de pelota en el mundo entero. Pelota siempre ha sido mi sueño y me encanta jugar. Esta fue una decisión que los Yankees hicieron y bueno, ahora voy a cambiar de batear jonrones, de ojalá ayudar a los próximos prospectos de los Yankees, batear jonrones en un futuro y tener las mismas metas que nosotros hicimos en el 2009, que fue ganar un campeonato y traer la bandera de campeonato para los fanáticos de Nueva York.
Brian Hoke, to your right.
Alex, how long would you say you wrestled with the idea of taking Hal up on this offer? And did you consider the chance that maybe you could go and play for another team?
Oh, well, a lot's happened in the last 72 hours. So I'm trying to get a time sense of, you know, when Hal told me that, I just tell him, give me a few days. I need to kind of think on this, sleep on it. I have not thought past the pinstripes, and my horizon is Friday, and haven't thought much more than that.
Who has the mic? Yeah, to your right, Alex.
Yeah. Have you thought about whether it'll be surreal to be involved in the game, to be mentoring young players, but not to be walking on the field?
Well, you get to walk on the field and help the young kids. But look, I'm 41. I've played for 22 years in the major leagues, right? And that's half of my adult life. It's been a long time. I look forward to mentoring and sharing some of the experiences, both good and bad, that I've experienced with our young players.
Tenchi, middle, Alex. left.
Alex, tú eres muy inteligente en el juego, has jugado béisbol toda tu vida. Si fueras a evaluar una diferencia del Alex que conectó 33 honrones y el Alex del 2016 que se va del béisbol.
Bueno, definitivamente yo creo que las mecánicas de este año nunca la controlé muy bien, pero yo siempre digo que con descanso yo siempre regreso fuerte. Por eso yo tenía inspiraciones grandes para el año 2017 de regresar con mucha fuerza y mucha energía.
Okay, we're going to Marley to your right, and then Barry. Marley, when you're done, can you just pass it behind you?
Barry.
Yep.
Alex, ¿qué vas a recordar de 22 años en Grandes Ligas jugando? What will you remember?
Bueno, el 2009 sería mi número uno memoria. Aquí, cuando uno se pone el uniforme de los Yankees, uno se preocupa de una cosa y una solamente, y es ganar y ganar campeonatos. Y nosotros teníamos equipos que yo creo que podíamos ganar 2 o 3 veces, pero eso te dice lo difícil que es ganar un campeonato. Pero el 2009 va a ser un año que nunca se me olvidará a mí y a mi familia y los peloteros y coaches y managers que lo compartimos.
Marley, you have Barry? Yep, go ahead.
Okay,
Thank you.
Alex, this has been really a momentous week for the Yankees between the trades, Tex retiring, now you're retiring. How did we get here? I mean, individually for you and individually for this team.
You know, last year for our team and for me personally, it was a magical season. This season we had big aspirations, and we were ambitious to have a, kind of build on what we started last year. But baseball is a funny game, and it's a difficult game. And for me personally, once I started swinging the bat pretty well, I ran into an injury, missed about 21 games or so, and mechanically I just never felt like I caught up. And I have a little bit over 200 at-bats, and I always felt that with rest and with reps and with fixing some of my techniques, because I've always done it, I thought I would have a strong finish and a stronger year next year. But again, that wasn't in the cards.
To your left, Ed.
Thank you. Alex, good luck in your new endeavors, and I would like to know what's your most memorable time with the New York Yankees?
I mean, I think Tex said it the other day, right? I mean, for us, that's easy around here. It's all about winning. And 2009, Mariano ground ball to Robinson, to Teixeira, and we were world champs. And that's a memory that I'll never forget.
Thank you.
Ed, can you pass it behind you, please? Fitzy, go ahead.
Thank you. Alex, you're somebody who has paid plenty of attention to baseball history, who's studied and read about players in the past. How do you think you should be remembered in baseball history?
I mean, for us, that's easy around here. It's all about winning. And 2009, I mean, that's not for me to say. I do want to be remembered as someone who is, madly in love with the game of baseball, someone who loves it at every level, someone who loves to learn, teach it, watch it, play it, coach it. And also, I'm going to be hopefully remembered for someone who tripped and fell a lot, but someone that kept getting up.
Wally, to your right here. We'll take a few more.
Alex, what's it been like for you personally to not be in the lineup for the past month or so? What have you been going through? And have you requested and received any assurances that you'll play in these last 4 games?
So, Wally, the last 4 weeks have not been fun. It's been very painful and embarrassing to sit on the bench. It's been awkward. So from that sense, I'm very happy that we found a solution. Management has told me that I'll get a few at-bats on Friday. So I am excited that in between, you mean Boston? That's up to Joe. I have not talked about, haven't been told what they're going to do with me. But I am very excited about Friday.
To your left, Julio.
Alex, your contract for coaching and special advisor is basically signed up to December 31st, 2017. Is this something that this was a graceful way for you to just exit, bring it on to you? Or are you really seriously thinking about staying in baseball as a possible coach for the future?
I want to make it clear, I'm not a coach. I'm not going to be coaching. I may be coaching Natasha's basketball team back in Ransom in Miami if they let me. I think both Hal and I are very serious about the possibility of bringing value to these young players. You know, there's such a long bridge between Tampa and New York. And what happens in those formative years for our players is very important. And I think you could bring enormous value to our players on how to get it done from A to Z. And for a guy like me that's been to hell and back and made every mistake in the book, I think they can learn equally from all the mistakes that I've made and hopefully not make them.
Ricky, to your left, Alex.
Alex,
Dan.
your work on TV last year analyzing the World Series was highly acclaimed, and you looked like you had a lot of fun doing it. Does your new agreement allow you to continue to do something like that on television, radio, and is that something you look forward to being on this side of the game?
That's something that I have to review with Jean. She's our chief legal, and she will give us all the language on that. But I hope so. I hope, I think Hal wants me to have some flexibility. He wants me to, I hope, be an ambassador to this great franchise, not only here, but in Dominican Republic, my homeland, and shout out to all my Dominican people out there. Yeah, so I think that shouldn't be a problem.
Up against the wall, Michael Kay, to your right, Alex.
Alex, when you play on Friday, do you then just stay with the team and mentor the younger players, or do you go home after Friday?
Yeah, so I will be going home after Friday, and I believe my duties will start next spring training. And of course, if there's a need, maybe in Tampa with some of our young shortstops, it's something that I'm available because Miami is very close to Tampa.
We'll take a last one. Brendan, to your left.
A report came out at 11 this morning from Ken Rosenthal, Fox Sports, says Alex Rodriguez said the Yankees informed him a few days ago they wanted to release him. Is that...
Say it again now.
This report says, from Ken Rosenthal and Fox Sports, published at 11 this morning, says that Alex Rodriguez said the Yankees informed him a few days ago they wanted to release him. Did they explicitly say that?
Like I said, I think someone, maybe Joe asked that question over here. The conversation never went that far. I mean, really, it was a focus on what does the organization want to do. I think our goals are similar. We want to get New York back to being a world champion. The fact that I get to be a small part of that, potentially, I was excited about it. As far as what was going to happen after that, we really didn't get that far.
Okay, Al, are you good? Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. We'll pause here for a moment and let players, coaches, team personnel get back to business in the clubhouse. We'll have Brian Cashman up here in a moment. Folks, I know I didn't want to break up the Q&A, but I know there were a bunch of people here who were raising their hands that I didn't get to. You know, I'll be first to admit I was partial to the media that have covered us on a regular and daily basis here this year and years past. So forgive me. That's who I targeted.
Who got the lucky phone? I said, who got the lucky phone? I don't know. Anyway, no big deal. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We'll start with questions. Who has some? Wally, did you have a question? Yeah.
Ash, is it fair to characterize this as a forced retirement?
I wasn't part of the conversation with Alex and Hal, so I can't tell you how they went. I think I know from speaking to Hal before this day, and I know from speaking to Alex before this day, they both felt very comfortable with their dialogue, and so that's all I can really say. I don't think it's, I based on listening to both of them, can I tell you, my guess would be I don't think it would be a forced situation. I don't think it. I think you got to take Alex's word for that as well, because Hal's not here to speak for himself. But everything I got from Hal and Alex both separately was there wasn't anything forced on that. The only issue obviously here has been, at bats lately that, have been going elsewhere.
Waldo. Dave, go ahead.
If it wasn't forced, do you think this is the best thing for the team on the field?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of, discussions clearly that, a lot of fair questions coming my way, a lot of fair questions coming the manager's way, a lot of fair questions coming Alex Rodriguez's way. We're in a very big market, with a superstar that's been struggling. And so it's, it's put everybody in a heightened alert to what's next. And you've been living it, we've been living it. And, so I think it's a new opportunity. I don't know if I can really add any more than what I thought was a very powerful conversation that Alex just had with you. I think his comments were really good and very genuine and very fair. And I think we're going to look forward to him impacting our younger players as a franchise. We feel that right there in the Florida State League alone, we have Gleyber Torres and Jorge Mateo, that I know, along with everybody else that is there. But those guys are middle infielders and could really benefit, along with anybody else that Alex gets a chance to interact with. The one thing Alex has always been amazing at every step of the way has been, his baseball knowledge. He's always been a leader and a mentor every step of the way. So at the end of the day, I think that we're going to benefit from that experience. Our kids will benefit from that experience, and he's going to just help us in a different way.
Marley, to your
Right.
right, Cash.
Hi, Brian. Brian, some people will remember Alex as an extraordinary player, and some others will remember him as a cheater. How should Yankee fans remember him?
Well, I'm wearing this 2009 ring right here. I'll take it off and put it right in front of you guys so you can take a look at it. That's the 09 ring. That doesn't come along to this franchise's trophy case without Alex's contributions, significant contributions. So, obviously he's had a very exciting career, one filled with some ups and downs, clearly, that I don't think anybody has, at least I don't feel necessary to go through, and I think he also spoke about someone that, has his ups and downs, but he always got back up, and I think that's really a true assessment of what he has done. The world we all live in, and even I was talking to Alex about this, the world we all live in, everybody makes mistakes, everybody has problems, everybody, made a left turn when they should have made a right turn, and it's just what do you do after the fact at some point when the balance comes back in play. And I think Alex is really, returned and been, great in that clubhouse, tremendous with our coaches, tremendous with the front office, and I think representing the franchise, since his return, he's been everything we've wanted. Unfortunately, this year the performance hasn't followed. But when I say that, I got to touch on that. Without last year's performance, we're not in the postseason, and without last year's performance, we're not thinking about potentially being a world champion contender, from July on. We got there because of, what he did along with his teammates. And so, unfortunately, this year it hasn't played out the way any of us, including himself, had wanted, and including myself. So, but I just, it's been a journey with a lot of exciting times, including some bad stuff and bad times, but a lot of great times and exciting moments at the same time. So, but this one right here, this one's all. Got out. I know Matsui is the MVP of the World Series that year, and we had amazing memories with some tremendous teammates that were on that team, and Alex is a big part of it. One of the bigger part of it, to be quite honest.
Who has the mic? Eric, right in the center.
Brian, with the shift here of Alex to this new role, what happens to the rest of his player contract, and what kind of luxury tax implications are you going to see from this shift?
He gets everything he deserves. The contract that he negotiated, in full force. Friday he'll play his last game, and that's the intention. And then a release after that will take place. We'll have somebody new on the 25-man roster, and every aspect that he's owed will be paid as the contract states the rest of the way, without interruption.
Just if you You can ask a question if you wouldn't mind identifying yourself.
Yeah, Adrienne Bankert, ABC News right here. I just, obviously you guys have been very transparent, and Arod was kind enough to be very vulnerable in this announcement. But what do you hope that he lends to the players of the next generation? Besides the fact that he's a superstar, obviously there have been some flaws like we all have. What will he contribute to your next roster?
The thing that he's going to do now in a different platform, not in terms of an active player after Friday, but he'll get in uniform in pregame, and he's a great evaluator. I remember, just to point out some things I was thinking about earlier today, like whenever he would be on an injury rehab assignment, it wasn't too long ago that he came out of Tampa in the Florida State League, I believe it was, maybe a few years back, and was like, hey, who's this Greg Bird? This guy can really swing the bat. He's sharing that with our local and media, and with our internal personnel that we, as a kid, we drafted out of Colorado High School, and our fans saw last year perform before he got hurt this year. That cost him the 2016 season. But that's the type of guy. He sees talent. He assesses it accurately. He mentors guys, takes them under their wing, talk about mechanical adjustments. He gets together with various, whether it's the head of the player development department, Gary Denbo, or our major league coaching staff, or Joe Girardi, our manager, and he or our scouting personnel, and he loves that aspect of the game. I think he wants to be an owner one day, but anything below that, in a field uniform, he's already plug and play. He's exceptional on the baseball end in terms of the teaching and evaluating side of it. He always has been. It's never been a weakness, and he's been a strong leader throughout the process since we've had him. And younger players do gravitate to him. So, I still remember even when in Miami we were not drafting, but a young guy like out of the draft. He's like, hey, take a look at this young kid, Manny Machado. He's going to be good. He didn't fall to us. Baltimore got him early, but I remember Alex talking to us about him. Damon Oppenheimer calls me up and says, hey, Alex is telling me there's a young kid, we better see it. But, we knew he wasn't going to fall to us. But, again, he can identify real talent, and not everybody can do that, to be honest. So,
standing to the right, Bill.
Brian, over here. As someone who's been here, obviously, for a long time through a lot of the good times, how hard is it for you to see Tex last week, Alex this week, to see this changing of the guard?
It's part of the process. I grew up in this franchise back in '86. I was here when Ron Guidry, in the middle of the season, retired. And so I've been through it. I mean, that's the one thing about this game. It's always changing, so it's hard to see the ones that you build better relationships with, come and go. But the game tells you. The game will tell you. I think maybe it's a better way to answer the question. Was this a forced conversation? I think the game tells you when, and that's how we try to use our evaluating tools in the minor leagues. Listen, when are some of these young guys going to be ready? And the game always dictates, when people belong at the next level, and who stays and how long they stay, and if you kick back and let it happen, this great game will show you and tell you really the direction that's necessary. And Alex has been doing a lot of dictating about his game for so long. He's been one of the game's greats during this time frame, and he's had an exciting career, obviously.
Richard
Roth, CNN. Hi, Brian. Alex talked about it being very painful, embarrassing to sit on the bench. Yes, his numbers were down or way down. Was there discussion between management? Was it a necessary thing to do to make a star feel that sting of facing the future by not giving him more at-bats? Was there a management involvement to he's got to see reality? There
wasn't from my end. I mean, like I just executed my job description. We've been in the pennant race, and I know we've been struggling all year, inconsistent with the runs aspect of it. In Alex's case, it's gone back since August. We were second in the league in runs scored last year. I know he keeps hearing me say this, and then from August on, we struggled, Alex as well. And then we got out of the gates this year with higher hopes, with some additions that we made this winter, with everybody coming back expecting high, performance if we got the health that we had hoped we would get, and it just hasn't worked out. So we've been tinkering because we've been forced to tinker since June. From my perspective as general manager, doing my job and executing my job description, you meet with your manager, you meet with your coaches. What can we do to get ourselves, going in the right direction, improve our performance in the offensive category? And, it was unanimously discussed, that we need to make some adjustments, and those adjustments have taken place, since June. And it's in a lot of cases, at least as we're talking about Alex, it's come in Alex's expense, Tex was down with an injury for a while, and we're already in Tex's case, we're already while Tex was down, we lost our backup first baseman in February in Bird, then we lost our second backup in Dustin Ackley, and then I had to go get Ike Davis over here. So we've run out of alternatives for first, but we've had some options to play on at the DH role when Carlos Beltran was here. And with Aaron Hicks being available to us, and with Rob Refsnyder coming up, we've had some different options to at least plug and play and see if that would be better for us. And so we executed our job description that way, which is, hey, let's going to try it. We have no choice here given the performance, and to try to get this team going in the right direction. So I don't think there's been anything forced from management other than I think we were forced to make adjustments based on an extended period of time of play that dates back to August. That's all.
All the way to the left, sir, if you can identify yourself.
Alex Raskin, Wall Street Journal. Brian over here. Did you guys consider letting Arod play elsewhere before returning in the special instructor role so we could get to 700 home runs or anything like that?
If you're asking if any teams had called me on Alex for trade purposes, that has not happened, if that's what you're asking.
No, it just would you guys have been open to letting him go play elsewhere and then bringing him back as a special instructor?
Play where, though? I mean, to another club? Yeah, no one. There's been no trade talks whatsoever. If that's what you're asking, that's he's been a DH, so you're talking about the American League, and obviously, so no.
We'll take a few more. Barry.
Cash, kind of a two-part question. On Monday, and that seems like 1,000 years ago already, you spoke about how that Tampa series last weekend really set a change in the philosophy, and you went out and made those deals. Alex went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts in one of those games. Was that like a tipping point for him moving forward? And secondly, would you speak about, with the departure of all these key players, how the Yankee destiny has changed and moved forward over the last week, too?
Well, the Tampa series, I think, I was trying to speak more for ownership. It wasn't a tipping point for me, but I think it might have been a mover of the needle for maybe ownership. And I think in terms of Alex and the 0 for 4, in the game he played, I just think Joe and the staff, they've had the opportunity to try to mix and match. And Joe, the one thing he always does with his staff, he's very prepared. They look at matchups. They kind of try to assess how people look when they do see him in pregame and post, and during games and during opportunities and bat speed and stuff like that. A lot of, and they use the analytical side, that we provide as well. And so I just think at times, based on how the entire roster was, if somebody could use a day and it provided an opportunity for Alex that might be a better opportunity to somebody else, or if the matchup was in his best interest to see if we can get him going that way, Joe would pull those things. But I don't think on sample sizes, this day is here because of a specific game in Tampa Bay. I mean, again, you don't make these type of game-changing decisions based on small samples. You do it based on a long, a process. So we, as I touched on a little bit, August and September, March, April, May, June, July, and now we're here the first, early August, first week of August. That's a much larger sample size, and so we obviously, made some decisions that we felt were in our best interest in terms of reducing playing time and providing to other people that we thought we might get more out of, and and now we're here today. Well, the transition's always taken place. I mean, listen, I've got 5 World Series titles, 4 as a GM, 1 as an assistant GM. Every team was different. And there's titles that I felt that we had missed opportunities that our team was even the smart guys in Vegas picked, as the team to beat, even though, that's why you don't bet on baseball because, it's so difficult to play and so unpredictable. But every year it's a different situation. Every year it's a different team with different hopes and stuff. And clearly there's transitions going on right now. There's, this roster has been getting younger the last few years. It's by intent and it's stated publicly, and something that's necessary. And I think it's some exciting times because there's some young blood that's coming in here that, they have big dreams and they have big hopes. I know that I've heard some interviews from Mark Teixeira, and you'll hear some more, obviously, clearly with Alex's decision. I know Mark talked about dreaming when he was a young player, always about what would it be like to catch the last out of a World Series victory, and he did that, and I got guys that are having those same dreams that are coming through our system right now, or they're already up here at the big league level that aspire to do the same thing and experience the same thing with putting a major league uniform on, but not just that, winning games, getting the playoffs, battling for the city, and adding an attempt to a new championship to this trophy case that we have. They all have these high hopes and dreams and aspirations that collectively, with all of us, we hope we can attain again sooner than later. So that creates an exciting narrative, but that narrative never changes. It's just obviously the path getting there can be different, but it's a path we're always trying to take nonetheless.
Harp.
Brian, if after Friday, is Arod free to sign with another team if there was interest, or does this new agreement change anything in that regard?
Yeah, a couple things. Of course he is, like anything else. Once the contract's released, the full force of that contract, is owed to him. There's nothing that happens after the fact that, you can go back and turn back that clock on. Two, he does have the ability to do, pursue, television or anything else like that. And he has the right to change his mind, too. I think he would be an exceptional impact on our younger players. No question about it. I've represented the Hal many, many years, and I think that, and Hal understood that, how he's impacted our players and the impact he's had on the clubhouse, and I think you all have carried that information on a year in and year out basis, how he is beloved in there, because they do know that he takes the time and gives back to the kids, and spring training, as he touched on, is very exciting for him. But he can be a Fox, if it's Fox, if he wants to do that in the postseason, he can do that. He can do anything he really wants. That's the world he'll be entering, and it's the next chapter. So it's going to be exciting times for him, even though he may be transitioning from one career into who knows what next. But whatever it is, Alex, it's always going to be exciting and newsworthy.
Michael, Dave, and Dan, and then we're done with Brian, and we'll bring Joe Girardi up here.
Brian, you said that he's going to be paid whatever he's owed. I'm just wondering, if you guys pay him everything up front right now, would that free you up next year against payroll and luxury tax purposes?
No, we're responsible for all of that, and it's not going to change. So the luxury tax and the payroll, all that stuff is, all the 29 other clubs that want us to pay every penny, they don't have to worry. We will be doing so. And then I don't know if I actually answered the rest of your question. And if he changed his mind, if somebody called him and said, "Hey, can you get it going and crank it back up?" and then he would have a decision. He'd be a free person to do so. And I don't think anybody here would stand in his way on that in any way, shape, or form. But the one thing I've gotten from Alex is he's at peace with the decision that he's come to for himself, because this was a joint conversation between him and our owner, Hal Steinbrenner. And I'll be honest, I don't think we'd be here if Hal felt that Alex was uncomfortable, or if Alex felt Hal was uncomfortable. I think that they've built a type of relationship with each other, from my assessment, that that's not how it would go down. So I think that Alex truly is at peace and comfortable with what's the decision that he was a part of, and that's the best I can represent from the feelings I'm getting from the conversations I've had with Hal Steinbrenner and separately with Alex Rodriguez.
Dave.
Brian, is he going to get paid extra for the work he's going to do as an advisor and instructor?
I'm not going to go into what his coaching contract is, but I'll just tell you he's a very clearly by the money he's earned in this game, he certainly has the ability to be an agent if he ever wanted to, because he can negotiate the heck out of it. He negotiated probably the greatest sports contract in the history of sports, and so he has got a lot of gifts. He just doesn't play baseball. He's a businessman at the same time. So,
Dan, last one.
Brian, as recently as this week, you were pretty adamant that you guys were not going to eat this much money just to get rid of him. And what has changed between now and
nothing.
then?
If you actually play back everything I've said, I said, slow down, wait. This is not something you come to an easy decision. There's guys running around in the game that's underperformed for a much longer period of time. That September's around the corner, and right now there are no plans to release, and those were all true at the time that was said and stated. But Hal Steinbrenner started having conversations at a date I can't even tell you with Alex, private conversations that he had that led to this decision. Hal would ask me in operations for my personal opinions and assessments of where things are today and where they're going, and I'm sure he took that into account. But this is something that he initiated on his own at a time I couldn't even tell you. So everything I've told you has been in real time, because this type of decision, especially that type of obligation to turn the page on, and is ultimately would be an ownership decision. So I don't think there's anything changed from my perspective, other than the fact that and I think I've always stated every time we talked about it was we always have the right to do that at any time. Right now, that's not being discussed. But clearly, Hal started having conversations with Alex, and then he informed me, and then Alex met with me, and the ball started rolling. So,
Okay, Brian, thank you for the time.
Thanks.
We'll have Joe Girardi up here now. Thanks, guys. Okay, we'll just pick it up. Meredith?
Joe, obviously Alex will be done after the game on the 12th, but do you have any intention of playing him from now until then?
I'm going to talk to him as we move forward here. Probably sit down and talk to him Tuesday when we get to Boston, maybe today after the game, to see where he's at mentally and what he kind of wants in the end here. So I'll sit down and talk to him.
Brian?
Joe, obviously you will play him on Friday. Is there any thought maybe playing him in the field, or is he a DH only? If he wants
I kind of thought of that. Is it something that you possibly do? I think that he has earned the right to have the conversation with me and what he wants to do here. So I'll sit and talk to him.
Wally?
Joe, considering the fact that the team's in a transition / rebuilding phase, for what reason wouldn't you play him, except for the fact if he says, I don't want to play? Why wouldn't you play him?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I said I want to sit and talk to him. Obviously, too, and I know we're in a transition, and I get that. We're 6 games back from the wild card. Stranger things have been done, but as again I said, he's earned the right, for us to sit down and have a conversation, and we will talk about it.
Barry?
Joe, what kind of week has this been emotionally for you? I mean, a lot of players, you invested a lot of energy in, and a lot of, heart and love over the course of the years are gone.
It's been a tough week, Barry. It's been a tough month for a lot of different reasons. We can talk about the trade deadline. We can talk about Tex and what he's meant to this organization. And as I said yesterday, Tex is the type of player that every manager wants to manage, because he's not only an offensive juggernaut, he's a defensive specialist. To lose guys like this, it's hard. Alex has meant a ton to me. This has been a tough month. Obviously it's a hot topic every day, and it's not an easy topic to talk about. So it's taken its toll.
Who else? In the back, all the way, Richard.
Richard Roth, CNN. Joe, Fenway Park, I know it's a little early. That was where Jeter had his last at-bat. It's great drama. It's Alex. We know what reaction he's gotten there in the past, but now he is going to be leaving the game. Ortiz has said he wants a standing ovation here. What reaction do you believe he will get in Boston should he play there and you decide to bat him? And what will he get, and what do you think he deserves there?
You know, I'm not sure what he'll get. I think he's meant a lot to this game. I think that he has provided excitement around the country, around the world for years after year with the numbers that he has put up. So I hope he is received well. This is a guy that we're not going to see every day come along in the game. You're just not. This has been a special player for a long time. So I hope he is received well because I think he has earned it.
Back right, standing up, Bill.
Joe, how hard has it been for you to watch Alex obviously decline from his peak?
It's been hard because I don't think any player ever wants to get to this point. You know, Alex talked about it. None of us ever want to take the uniform off. And, you know, it was easy to pencil his name in that lineup every day, you know, hitting third and playing third base and never have to worry about where I was going to put him. Never worry about the effort that I was going to get. Never worry about the production I was going to get. I mean, my job was easy when it came to Alex. Now, as times have changed, you know, and he had to earn his at-bats when he came back last year, he did a tremendous job earning those at-bats, and it was rewarding for me to be able to put him back in that 3 slot and let him perform. So this, you know, like I said, this has been difficult because this is a guy that you'd love to say you had forever, that never goes away. I mean, any manager would love to write Alex's name in the lineup, hitting third and putting him at third base, or when he was younger at shortstop, and never have to worry, and to get 155 to 158 games, maybe 160, and know that you were going to get 140, 150 RBIs. I mean, that's a dream for a manager.
All the way in the back.
Joe, you've spent a handful of spring trainings with Alex Rodriguez. What have you seen from him in those spring trainings that gives you confidence in his new role to deal with some of the younger players in the Florida State League and the next spring training?
Oh, I mean, this goes back from the first day I met him. You know, I used to say some of my most enjoyable times at the ballpark was, you know, and I'm a substantial distance from where we eat, and I'm in my office, and I can hear the young kids laughing with Al, enjoying his company. Now, some of this is fun, but he's also teaching the game the whole time. I remember him taking Robbie Cano out in spring training, and this was before Robbie really started to put up big numbers. And we talked to Al about how can you help him with his approach with runners in scoring position. And Al took him out to the backfield, and all of a sudden Robbie became a 30 and 100 guy. And it was, you could write it in. And it was because of Alex talked to him about his approach. He has been a teacher forever, whether it's been in spring training, whether it's been during the middle of the season, just things that he sees. He has a love for this game as much as any person I've ever met. So I think teaching becomes natural because, A, he loved the game so much and he loved to talk about it, but B, he also wanted to win. And he knew to get the best out of his teammates, he had to lend some of the knowledge that he had.
Nick and Duke.
You said Friday, before Mark retired, you had a conversation with him to check if he was sure. What kind of conversation did you have with Alex? Was it the same sort of sentiment?
We weren't really privy to this information. You know, this is the best job the New York Yankees have ever done of keeping something in-house. And it was in a small house. I mean, and this is a big house. So we weren't really privy to the information. So I didn't really get to have a conversation with him. You know, and as Cash said, he has the right to change his mind. I mean, he has the right to change his mind if he gets home and says, you know what, I want to keep going. I'm not sure what's going to happen. This is hard for any athlete, you know. I was saying yesterday, you know, after Tex, you know, said this was going to be it. You know, I think it was Kirk Gibson who said players die 2 lives. one when you take your uniform off, and one when you die your natural life. And it's true. I know I cried like a baby my last day.
Duke.
Joe, you've been through some really good times with Alex and tough times. What will you personally remember most about him?
How much he loves this game and how much he gave back to it. Was going to be it. You know, I think it was Kirk Gibson. You know, and I'm not going to forget what he did for us in 2009, believe me. But, you know, like I said, one of my favorite memories of Alex is hearing the kids laugh with him. You know, the young players and the people around the table with him. And it's not just a little laugh. I mean, these are belly laughs, and I'm hearing it a block away. And how he prepared. I mean, Alex worked as hard as any player I've ever met. You know, sometimes you think superstars, it just comes easy for them. Yeah, Alex made it look easy, but my gosh, did this guy work, and he worked, and he worked. And sometimes maybe he overworked. Sometimes maybe the 300 swings he took in the cage were too many that day. But he truly loved this game, and that love will never leave.
Joel.
Joe, you've mentioned these great attributes and easy to manage, hitting third, playing third, working with it.
Sort of found this out, or this was a decision made by others. Cashman said the same thing. When did the rest of the players find out, and what is your role? What do you imagine your role will be in sort of talking about it with them, if any of them have sort of questions or feelings of how to manage, obviously, the biggest name in the room?
Yeah, well, you know, even coming into today, I don't think, you know, there was a press release last night about the press conference. The players still didn't know what was going on. I don't know if he confided in anyone. I don't necessarily think so. So I think really this is the first of them knowing. I'm sure they're all a little taken aback by it a little bit, just because they also understand the passion Alex has for this game. I'm sure they all understand and will be supportive of whatever he does, but I'm sure there's some players in that room who are a little shocked.
Is there anyone else? Sorry, right here.
Joe, you say you're going to have conversation with Alec, and depending on what he says, you're going to go. What if he say he feel healthy enough to play every day until last day Friday? Do you will play him?
Yeah, I mean that's a conversation I have to have. If he wants to play in every game, I'll find him.
Back in shape and getting back into hitting shape, and basically the.
Came to spring training. Obviously, we wanted the ability that in a pinch he could do something, but I said, we need you to hit. I mean, that's really what we need you to do. That's what's going to earn you at bats. So I said, just focus on the hitting. We'll worry about the other things a little bit later if we have to worry about them. You know, we talked about first base when Tex went down and he never became comfortable. But the bottom line, for him to be productive for this team, he was going to have to hit. And I think it put his mind at ease. I think it allowed him to play more often, recovering from standing out at third base or first base, 3 hours a night. I think it's harder to recover, so I think it helped him.
Joe, thank you for your time. Media, thanks for joining us today, and if you need something, let us know.
All right, so we have heard a lot of different perspectives about this announcement regarding Alex Rodriguez, who will play his final game on Friday, this coming Friday, against the Tampa Bay Rays. And you listen to the process, and Joe already brought up a great point there, guys. The fact that it's a big family, it's a big house there, but this was taken care of in a very small house, a space between Hal Steinbrenner and Alex Rodriguez.
Right, Bob, in the New York media market where things usually don't remain under wraps, but if we retrace the steps of how this happened and also this press conference, on Tuesday, Hal Steinbrenner flew to New York. He actually did a radio interview with Michael Kay that you could hear on Yes, and he said that he would not make a decision that wasn't in the best interest of the franchise because the money was brought up. And he said, I'll do what's best for the organization. The next day, he meets with Alex Rodriguez and gets this process started. And I think that conversation between the two of them was all about how do we have an ending that is graceful and dignified for both sides. And I think after that conversation, they figured out what that ending was. Alex Rodriguez's playing career with the Yankees was going to end very soon.
but his relationship with the Yankees would continue. I think they accomplished that, Jack. I think both sides can come out of this with something to gain. And I listened to Brian Cashman, and you think about all the tough decisions he has made in the last couple of weeks with the trade deadline. Mark Teixeira is retiring. I'm sure his voice of reason was Alex Rodriguez is not helping us. We have to make a decision. And clearly the relationship with Hal Steinbrenner and Alex Rodriguez was able to come up to today's press conference where both sides have something to look forward to with their relationship moving forward. But I took away from Alex Rodriguez and the way he was speaking, this is not a guy who walked in the clubhouse one day and said, I can't play anymore. I think he still believes he can, but this relationship with the Yankees is going to move forward. And I wonder, after maybe a couple of weeks, Jack, if Alex Rodriguez says, you know what, I miss this so much, I might want to revisit. Well, it is interesting because Brian Cashman said he will get all of the money that's left in his contract. For anyone who doesn't realize, when you release versus getting retired, the Yankees are releasing him, so he's getting the full $27 million. But Cashman reiterated what you just said, John, that he's free at that point to go and do whatever he wants. It might be TV, maybe a team comes calling, although I'm not sure. But I will go back to a conversation I had with Alex Rodriguez about 3 weeks ago when he was in the midst of all these struggles, and he talked about the changes he was trying to make, and he talked about swinging at pitches that were in the zone as opposed to pitches that were out of the zone. He talked about how his home runs per at-bat were still pretty decent, and if you push those across 500 or 600 at-bats, he'd be a guy whose home run total was in the 20s. So I don't think he's ever going to stop thinking like a player.